Welcome, you're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. The interim trade framework announced by the United States and India marks an important reset in bilateral economic engagement after negotiations dragging on for nearly a year. Coming days after US President Donald Trump publicly announced that the two sides had reached a trade deal, the framework formalizes a significant understanding on tariffs, market access and sectoral cooperation, even as details will be released and decided in further negotiations. The US will cut the so-called reciprocal levy faced by Indian products, bringing the effective tariff rate down to 18%. More significantly, the additional 25% tariff imposed earlier by US President Donald Trump, linked explicitly to India's purchases of Russian oil, has been eliminated altogether. Let's in fact take a look at what India's agricultural sector gets out of this major deal. It's important to understand because agriculture has always been India's red line. In various deals, they keep making sure that this red line is never crossed. So let's look at what's in it for the agriculture sector. India's farmers can gain zero tariff access to the huge US market for exports like agro products. So this is one of the most important factors that is in fact being discussed, that there will be almost up to 0% tariffs. Sensitive items such as wheat, rice, dairy, poultry and meat fully protected from US imports. So all these sensitive items which have there were concerns that our agriculture might be affected, these items have been protected. This has been listed out in the framework. No concessions given on core grains, fruits, vegetables, spices and oilseeds in the deal. So no concessions have been given in core grains like bajri. We are not compromising on our stance and we are drawing the lead line for agricultural produce as well. So no concessions on core grains, fruits also, vegetables, spices and oil seeds as well. So this is important to understand. In fact, Indian exporters will benefit from reciprocal lower tariffs, boosting the agri product competitiveness abroad. Understand this factor. Earlier, if goods are placed at 50% tariffs and now they have been reduced to 18%, they will be more competitive in the US markets. They will be able to compete in the same produce from other countries as well. So that's how Indian exporters will benefit. US gets tariff cuts on feed like DDGS and red sorghum, but not on India's key staples. So they will, in fact, US will get some amount of tariff cuts on feed, but not on the core produce. Tree nuts, fresh processed fruits, soybean oil face reduced barriers from the US side. So these are some of the sectors that are going to see reduced barriers from the US side as well. This will help our Indian exporters and this will also help us in fact open up our markets to soybean oil which the US actually wants to export to us. So this is something that exporters and importers are looking forward to in the agriculture sector. We are seeing how the Indian government has tried to maintain that balance. Our core sensitivities have been protected. However, there are certain areas where we can diversify and that has been opened up for the US as well. So this is something that has in fact been agreed upon. The framework has decided this and we have some details regarding this. Let's in fact discuss this further with my panelists who are joining us on the broadcast. Ambassador Jitendra Tripathi, former diplomat, Karori Singh, Foreign Affairs expert, Vijay Kalantri, President All India Industries Association and Yogendra Kapoor, economist. Thank you all for joining us on the broadcast. A very good afternoon. Let me start off with Ambassador Tripathi first. So, when we are looking at this framework, obviously we also had the Commerce Minister come out, give a press statement, how the agricultural sector has been protected. Our sensitive areas have been protected from all the tariffs. They're still facing, more tariffs. There will not be any competition in that sector. We are also seeing opening up of sectors where we can see some amount of competition, sir. Ambassador Tripathi, we cannot hear you. If you can unmute yourself. All right. Let me, in fact, go across to Mr. Karori Singh till we get that line fixed. Mr. Singh, now that we have a certain framework in place, going forward, the agricultural sector, which everyone had some apprehensions about, those doubts seem to be clearing up.
You see, Shivani, I would like to add a couple of points to your report, which you have presented just now. The first is there is a standard practice in any agreement, some kind of conducive environment is being created. Instead of that, President Trump is creating coercive environment in any type of agreement. So this US trade agreement is not exception to that. The second thing is, till today, a framework for agreement has been prepared. And on the basis of that framework, the final interim bilateral trade agreement will be announced in March. The Indian leaders are addressing the Indian people, their version, and the American leaders are addressing their version. So there is somewhat contradiction between what the American leaders pursue the final agreement look like and how Indian leaders pursue how the final text of the agreement look like. I wish, pray and hope our commerce minister's Danke ki chot becomes a hakikat in the final agreement in March. But I do have some apprehensions, and apart from apprehensions, one point I would like to add, US economy is the advanced developed economy. Indian economy is in the take-off stage of the advancement. And thus for India, it's the crucial agreement. India must be very, very careful. Of course, our negotiators are well equipped with the appropriate inputs, what the likely impacts of the agreement will be. But regarding the agricultural sector, the American version is different and Indian version is different. So whether the Indian farmers will get some boost in terms of the aid to the farming community, as President Trump has announced that US will provide $12 billion to American farmers. So 12 billion is so heavy amount. If American farmers are equipped with such a heavy amount, how they will be aggressive in their exports. So how the Indian farming community will be addressed, their grievances will be addressed, that is the apprehension still I do have. But we hope in the final draft, all these apprehensions will be removed. The second thing which is more important is the agreement is not merely the trade agreement. Some national security concerns of the United States, they are also to be added as obvious from the framework. And another thing is the economic security alignment with India. And here the third party comes into the picture. So the India and US agreement will also have some concern of the non-market policies of the other countries, third countries. And here I think there may be some discrepancy and some conflict kind situation may emerge if the India and US agreement will talk something about economic security alignment. It's not merely a trade agreement. So let us see how the final interim bilateral trade agreement comes out in March. Then we will be able to assess the realistic impact of the agreement and realistic benefits to the Indian side. Over.
Right,
Shivani.
sir. Right. In fact, let me rope in Ambassador Tripathi for more on this. Ambassador, how are you looking at this entire framework? Because the Indian government has, given out specifications that the agricultural sector has been protected. Our red lines are drawn. We are not compromising, on our sensitive areas, on our core products. However, we are opening up to more opportunities. We are opening up market access as well, and we are agreeing to a trade of over $500 billion. So, in that framework, it's a win-win for both the countries.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you are, sir.
Okay, good. Well, good afternoon to everybody. Well, let me say that when Commerce Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal held a press conference, he very much clarified that and categorically said that nothing harmful to farmers' interests will be allowed to enter India, nor will be allowed a genetically modified product. So that makes things quite clear. And again, he said that no relief on meat, poultry, dairy, soya, maize, rice, wheat, sugar, millets, ethanol, tobacco, and oilseed and green peas, etc., will be given. That means these items, these products all agricultural products have already been placed outside the framework of the trade deal. If we can understand that, if we can think that. And he said that spices, tea, coffee, copra, coconut, fruit and vegetables like avocado, banana, guavas, mango, kiwis, papaya, mushroom, vegetables, roots, uh, cereals like barley and some processed food, they will be allowed duty free to enter US. So from this explanation, it looks like the interest of farmers have been taken care, except for two things, I would say: cotton yarn and corn. I understand earlier also the government has said corn growers are not much in India, and nor is the production very much. Cotton yarn, yes, but you will realize that when 50% duty and 25% duty and 25% penalty was introduced by Trump on Indian goods, then in order to counter that, we I think we imported we are importing 100 cotton yarns worth 180 million. So what the government did was to reduce the import duty on cotton yarn to zero, so that the input cost of the manufacturers is less, and then GST also had been reduced on garments. So in all, it has not affected very much the apparel exporters as per government. As regards other things, US Secretary of Commerce and Trade had been complaining that not even one bag of corn India imports from US. So corn we are importing, I suppose. So these two things are being allowed, but in order to compensate and in order to accelerate, in order to increase the bilateral trade to $500 billion in 5 years, what we are doing is we are probably importing more defense equipments. And as you must have read in the newspaper that 50 Boeing Dreamliners are
Right.
on the cards to be purchased.
In fact, Ambassador, that is the section that is the most talked about, that we have been given concessions to the security tariffs as well that the US imposes. Let me in fact also rope in Rajat Mishra, who is an economist, into this discussion. Mr. Mishra, how are you looking at this from an economic point of view? Because when we look at agriculture, the Indian government says that it is protecting and it's listed out a whole host of sensitive items that will stay protected, that the Indian government has refused to give concessions on, but they are opening up the market for newer opportunities.
Right. See, the most important thing is the government has long claimed that it is going to protect farmers and their interest. And that is why the concern from many who are looking for the farmers' interest was that will government open its markets for, let's say, products which are coming from USA, which are, let's say, soybean, corn, maize, maybe wheat or rice, or also including pulses. But the most important thing which we have seen in these deals, or the deals which we are looking at right now, they have opened it up for soybean oil, which is not a direct problem for farmers, because it will have some impact, because it will be impacting soybean producers here. But as the direct soybean produce will not come, it will not going to affect the farmers directly. Another thing which is most important, and in my opinion it will be really good for animal husbandry, that is part of agriculture sector, would be DDGs. What is happening in India, the grains, or let's say red sorghum, and these are some of the products which are given to cattle here, including cows, buffalo, calves, etc. But they are not very protein intensive. But whatever products which America is going to export to us, and we have either eliminated or reduced the taxes on that, or tariffs on that. Based on this, the DDGs, which will be more protein rich, will be arriving at India at a very, very cheaper rate. This is going to affect the animal husbandry sector, and they will be in a better situation to get more produce. So the production in animal husbandry will get positively affected. That is a very good thing which we are looking at it, because earlier the concern was if the government is opening to dairy industries, then milk, and that too what we call as a non-vegetarian milk, because lots of things which are non-vegetarian are also consumed by American cows and American cattle, right? So in that situation, again, government has protected Indian farmers as well as animal husbandry's interest in these regards. These three things are the most important thing which we could gather right now from these the details of these deals.
Right. In fact, let me also rope in Mr. All right. I believe we are having some connection with some of our guests who have joined us on the broadcast. Let me, in fact, rope in Mr. Vijay Kalantri, President, All India Industries Association. Sir, how are you looking at this entire framework that has been introduced? All right. Let me in fact go across to Ambassador Tripathi for more on this. Sir, we were talking about the security tariff that India has gotten concessions to. It is very rare to see a country get concessions in that sector, and you were also talking about how India is getting concessions regarding certain aircraft parts as well.
Our intake of aircraft because of our booming airline industry, one. Secondly, when it comes to defense, we are going to have a deal with critical minerals and rare earths, which we could get from US because we are short of it, and China has the almost monopoly in it. Secondly, thirdly, the import of oil. Not necessarily US, but from Venezuela. Let me tell our readers, our viewers, that we not only have been importing oil from Venezuela, but we also have invested in oil industry, as our ONGC Videsh OVL had been given by President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela in 2005 to oil fields without any bidding. Incidentally, I was posted there when it happened, and we have these two big oil fields, one in San Cristobal, where ONGC Videsh has 49% of stake, and other in Carabobo, where we have 18% of stake. So we were having oil from there and selling. We were exploiting oil and selling, but then sanctions by President Trump had stopped that. And we had been asking repeatedly the US government since August last year. So, these things are going to impact heavily, impact heavily and address the concern that US had that India has always been on a positive side, trade benefit India had. So I think in the shorter run, in another 3-4 years, we'll see the benefit and we'll see the rise in bilateral trade, and probably we can touch that 500 billion mark, because as I see only 50 Boeing Dreamliners, each costing from $300 to $380 million. 40 or 50 of them will themselves have about 15 billion. They will themselves make a difference of 15 billion in one go. So I am very positive, though details, nitty-gritty of this trade deal are yet to be announced. But I think that things are going to be easier for us, and mainly because US also needs now to have a trade deal with India, since they are very much worried that during the last 1 year we had trade deal with EFTA, we had trade deal with
All right.
Britain, we had trade deal with EU.
Right.
So I think it is in interest of US also to enter into the Indian market more vigorously before it is too late.
Absolutely, it's a win-win for both the countries, I believe. With that, we'll have to wrap up this bulletin. I thank Ambassador Tripathi, Mr. Singh and Mr. Mishra for joining us on the broadcast.